sun began to rise, Marcy, her father, and Oliver packed up their camp and continued their journey. The events of the previous night still weighed heavily on their minds, but they were determined to press on. The road ahead was rugged and winding, the terrain becoming more treacherous with each passing mile. Marcy's father led the way, his eyes scanning the path for any signs of danger. Oliver walked beside them, his eyes also scanning the surroundings, always alert for any potential threats. As they continued on the winding road, Marcy's father checked the map and estimated that they were about halfway to their destination. It was still a long journey ahead, but they had come too far to turn back now. Marcy's thoughts returned to the hidden treasure, and she turned to Oliver once more. "Do you have any idea how far away this treasure is?" Oliver shook his head. "Like I said, it's just rumors. But if the bandits are after it, it must be somewhere along this road." Marcy nodded, her mind racing with the possibilities. She knew that they had to stay focused on their mission, but the thought of discovering a treasure along the way was too tempting to ignore. As the day wore on, the trio grew increasingly tired and hungry. They had packed enough provisions for the journey, but the rugged terrain had slowed their progress, and they had consumed more than they had intended. Marcy's father suggested they take a break and rest for a while, and they agreed to his proposal. They found a small clearing beside the road and set up camp. Marcy's father started a fire, and Oliver went off to hunt for some fresh game. Marcy sat by the fire, lost in thought. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that someone or something was lurking in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. Suddenly, Oliver emerged from the woods, carrying a large hare. He handed it to Marcy's father, who quickly cleaned and prepared it for cooking. As they ate, they talked about their journey and the events of the previous night. Marcy's father thanked Oliver once again for his bravery, and Marcy couldn't help but feel a sense of admiration for the mysterious warrior. After they finished eating, Marcy's father suggested they continue their journey. They packed up their camp and set off once again, their minds still plagued by the mysteries of the road ahead. The three travelers moved cautiously along the narrow and rocky path, their eyes scanning the treacherous terrain ahead. Marcy's heart pounded with each step as she edged closer to the edge of a steep cliff. She could feel the weight of her backpack pulling her off balance, and she struggled to keep her footing on the loose gravel beneath her feet. Oliver led the way, his movements sure and steady despite the difficult terrain. He scanned the landscape with sharp eyes, searching for any signs of danger or obstacles that might lie ahead. The three travelers moved cautiously along the narrow and rocky path, their eyes scanning the treacherous terrain ahead. Marcy's heart pounded with each step as she edged closer to the edge of a steep cliff. She could feel the weight of her backpack pulling her off balance, and she struggled to keep her footing on the loose gravel beneath her feet. Oliver led the way, his movements sure and steady despite the difficult terrain. He scanned the landscape with sharp eyes, searching for any signs of danger or obstacles that might lie ahead. Marcy's father followed closely behind, his hands clenched tightly around his walking stick as he negotiated the treacherous path. As they moved deeper into the mountains, the landscape grew increasingly rugged and unforgiving. The narrow path wound its way along steep cliffs and through deep gorges, the ground beneath their feet slippery with loose stones and gravel. The wind howled through the rocky landscape, whipping at their clothes and threatening to knock them off balance. Despite the challenges, they pushed on, driven by a sense of purpose and determination. Marcy's father had a steely look of determination on his face, and Marcy could feel her own resolve strengthening with each passing moment. They knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but they were prepared to face whatever challenges lay in store. As they walked, Marcy couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease. The rocky terrain around them was treacherous and unforgiving, with steep cliffs and deep gorges looming on either side of the narrow path. The wind whistled through the rocky formations, sending a shiver down Marcy's spine. Oliver, too, seemed on edge. He walked with a cautious step, his eyes scanning the surrounding area for any sign of danger. Suddenly, they heard a loud rustling in the bushes ahead. Marcy's father drew his sword, ready to defend himself and his daughter. But as the figure emerged from the brush, they saw that it was not a bandit or a wild animal, but a young woman, perhaps in her late teens or early 20s. She wore ragged clothes and carried a small sack over her shoulder. She looked up at the trio with big, pleading eyes. "Please, sirs," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm lost. Can you help me find my way?" Marcy's father lowered his sword and exchanged a cautious glance with Oliver. "What are you doing out here all alone?" he asked. The girl bit her lip nervously. "I was traveling with my family, but we got separated in the woods," she explained. "I've been wandering around for hours, trying to find them or some help." Marcy stepped forward, a sympathetic look on her face. "We'll help you," she said kindly. "What's your name?" The girl's face lit up with gratitude. "Thank you so much." "My name is Lily," she replied. As they began to lead the girl back the way they had come, Marcy's father couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. He looked around nervously, his hand never straying too far from his sword. Suddenly, a twig snapped behind them, and the group spun around to see a group of bandits emerging from the bushes. They were armed to the teeth, their swords glinting menacingly in the sunlight. Oliver stepped forward, ready to fight, but Marcy's father grabbed his arm. "We can't fight them all," he said. "We have to run." And with that, they turned and fled, the young girl in tow. Their feet pounded against the ground, their hearts racing with fear. The sound of their pursuers grew louder, and Marcy's father knew that they were getting closer. They were nearly at the edge of a cliff when he made the split-second decision to turn and face their attackers. Drawing his sword, he stood his ground, ready to defend his family and their new companion. Oliver and Marcy stood behind him, their hearts in their throats, as the bandits closed in. It seemed like they were about to be overwhelmed, but then, suddenly, there was a loud boom. The ground shook beneath their feet, and the bandits stumbled back, their swords clattering to the ground. In the distance, they could see a massive plume of smoke rising into the air. "What was that?" Marcy asked, her voice trembling. Oliver turned to face them, a grim expression on his face. "I'm afraid it's exactly what we feared," he said. "The bandits have found the treasure."